Hi guys, Freddy here, and welcome to this episode of RPGGamer Top 5s. And this time we're going to do the top 5 classic fantasy movies. Now, these days we've had some amazing fantasy movies, and these totally dominate any list we try to make of the top fantasy movies. In fact, we tried to do a poll of the top fantasy movies, but after seeing the results we decided not to make a video about it. At number 5 was Harry Potter and the Sorcerers Stone. At number 4 was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. At number 3 was Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. At number 2 was Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. And taking the number 1 spot was Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. Now, they're all fantastic movies, but that's a bit of a boring list. So we ran another poll and asked people to vote for their favourite classic fantasy movies. And by that we mean movies from the 1980s and before that. And for our taste, that led to a far more interesting list of movies that we loved as kids and have loved watching with our kids today. And with that, let's get on with the list. At number 5, The Dark Crystal in 1982, with 391 votes. The Dark Crystal, sometimes referred to as Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal, is a 1982 puppet-animated high fantasy film directed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz. It stars the voices of Stephen Garlick, Lisa Maxwell, Billy Whitelaw, Percy Edwards and Barry Dennen. The film was produced by ITC Entertainment and Henson Associates and distributed by Universal Pictures. The plot revolves around Jen, a gelfling on a quest to restore balance to the world of Thra and overthrow the ruling Skeksis by restoring a powerful broken crystal. It was marketed as a family film, but was notably darker than the creator's previous material. The animatronics used in the film were considered groundbreaking. The primary concepts were designed by fantasy illustrator Brian Froud, famous for his distinctive fairy and dwarf designs. Froud also collaborated with Henson and Oz for their next project, the 1986 film Labyrinth. And at number 4, Willow from 1988, with 441 votes. Willow is a 1988 American high fantasy film directed by Ron Howard, produced and with a story by George Lucas, and starring Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer, Joanne Whalley, Jean Marsh and Billy Barty. Warwick Davis plays the eponymous lead character and hero, a reluctant farmer who plays a critical role in protecting a special baby from a tyrannical queen who vows to destroy her and take over the world in a high fantasy setting. Lucas conceived the idea for the film in 1972, approaching Howard to direct during the post-production phase of Cocoon in 1985. Bob Dolman was brought in to write the screenplay, coming up with 7 drafts before finishing in late 1986. It was then set up at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and principal photography began in April 1987, finishing the following October. The majority of filming took place at Elstree Studios in Hertfordshire, England, as well as Wales and New Zealand. Industrial Light and Magic created the visual effects sequences, which led to a revolutionary breakthrough with digital morphing technology. The film was released in 1988 to mixed reviews from critics. It grossed $110 million worldwide against a $35 million budget. While not the blockbuster some expected, it turned a profit based on international box office returns and a strong home video and television returns. Additionally, it received 2 Academy Award nominations. And at number 3, The Neverending Story in 1984, with 489 votes. The Neverending Story is a 1984 English-language German fantasy film directed and co-written by Wolfgang Petersen in his first English-language film, and based on the novel The Neverending Story by Michael Ende. It stars Noah Hathaway, Barrett Oliver, Tammy Stronach and Patricia Hayes, with Alan Oppenheimer as the voices of both Falkor and Gamork, as well as many other characters. The film follows a boy who happens upon a magical book that tells of a young warrior who is given the task of stopping the Nothing, a dark force, from engulfing the mystical world of Fantasia. At the time of its release, it was the most expensive film produced outside the United States or the Soviet Union. The film was the first in the Neverending Story film series, and adapts only the first half of the book, and consequently does not convey the message of the title as it was portrayed in the novel. The second half of the book was subsequently used as a rough basis for the second film, The Neverending Story 2, The Next Chapter. The third film, The Neverending Story 3, Escape from Fantasia, features an original plot not based on the book at all. And number 2, Labyrinth from 1986, with 555 votes. Labyrinth is a 1986 musical dark fantasy film directed by Jim Henson, with George Lucas as executive producer. based upon conceptual designs by Brian Froud. It revolves around 16-year-old Sarah, Jennifer Connelly's quest to reach the centre of an enormous otherworldly maze to rescue her infant brother Toby, whom Sarah wished away to Jareth Goblin King, played by David Bowie. Most of the film's significant characters, apart from Bowie and Connelly, are played by puppets produced by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. The film started as a collaboration between Henson and Froud, following their previous collaboration on The Dark Crystal. But Terry Jones of Monty Python fame wrote the first draft of the film's script early in 1984, drawing on Froud's sketches for inspiration. Various other scriptwriters rewrote and added to it, including Laura Phillips, George Lucas, Dennis Lee, and Elaine May, although Jones received the film's sole screenwriting credit. The New York Times reported that Labyrinth had a budget of $25 million, but the film was a box office disappointment, grossing only $12.9 million during its US theatrical run. It was the last feature film Henson directed, and poor reception contributed to a difficult period of Henson's career, according to his son Brian Henson. It was met with a mixed critical response upon its release, but has since gained a large cult following, as demonstrated by its second position here. And at number 1, The Princess Bride, in 1987, with 565 votes. The Princess Bride is a 1987 American fantasy adventure comedy film, directed and co-produced by Rob Reiner, starring Carrie Elwes, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, Wallace Shawn, Andre the Giant, and Christopher Guest. Adapted by William Goldman from his 1973 novel The Princess Bride, it tells the story of a farmhand named Wesley, accompanied by companions befriended along the way, who must rescue his true love Princess Buttercup from the odious Prince Humperdinck. The film essentially preserves the novel's narrative style by presenting the story as a book being read by a grandfather, played by Peter Falk, to his sick grandson, played by Fred Savage. The film was first released in the United States on September 25, 1987, and was well received by critics at the time, but was only a modest box office success. Over time, the film has become a cult classic, and one so full of classic quotes, lines and characters that without prompting, my eldest son, born a decade after the movie was released, was quoting it to me only yesterday. A movie which can be enjoyed as a fantasy movie, or equally as a comedy movie, making it a totally timeless classic, which is among the many reasons why I'm happy to see it voted as the number 1 on this list of the top 5 classic fantasy movies. And that's it for this list of the top 5 classic fantasy movies. So what did you think? Would you have preferred some of the earlier fantasy movies to have featured, such as the Ray Harryhausen classics, such as Sinbad and Jason and the Argonauts? Or some of the trashier but no less entertaining movies such as Beastmaster, Hawk the Slayer, Clash of the Titans or Krull, which I loved when I was young? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, by getting in touch by email or through the website. Anyway, as always, many thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and we'll catch you later. Bye.